soils have less than 0.5% organic material. They have horrible floods. They have a lot of erosion because the soil is washing away because the rains are running off rather than soaking in. The quality, the nutrient quality of the produce coming out of that land is not nearly as good as it was 50 or 60 years ago. That's what chemical fertilizers will do for you. Organic fertilizers bring their own carbon source with them. Organic fertilizers have more energy in them by far than it takes for the soil microbes to process it. Organic fertilizers increase microbial activity, increase the organic content of the soil, and just do so many more good things. So there's another reason to stay away from chemical fertilizers. By the way, everybody's so concerned about global warming, about the increase in carbon dioxide in the soil, or in the air rather. That's not just due to industrial pollution and cars by any means. A lot of that carbon dioxide is coming from the degradation of organic material in the ground. That degradation is happening for two reasons. One of them is the use of chemical fertilizers. The other is the use of too much what we call tillage, too much plowing. Every time you plow soil, you bring that organic material up on top, it oxidizes, it turns into carbon dioxide, and they have, the better experts out there that study soil science have said that if we would get to what we call a no-till method of agriculture, and if we would use organic fertilizers rather than chemical fertilizers, that the amount of carbon dioxide in the air would go down far, far faster than it's building up, and it would indeed be the only solution we need to take carbon dioxide out of the air and, in effect, do away with global warming. Haven't heard that Monsanto or any big chemical companies are real interested in this right now. Yes, sir?
Can we get a balance through nature through photosynthesis?
We only have a limited amount of chlorophyll-containing plants that are able to process. Yes, I wish we did, but we're going the wrong direction. We're cutting down the rainforests, which process a lot of carbon dioxide. We're polluting the oceans. The biggest converter of carbon dioxide is blue-green algae in the colder waters north and south. And we're destroying the things that naturally process carbon dioxide. In a world without people, yes, it would balance itself, but it's not happening right now. Yes, sir?
Is it possible with the organic fertilizers to fertilize too much?
It will hurt your bank account if you fertilize too much. But I don't think that it would really be possible to fertilize too much. I say that in jest. I think one of the best things that's come out of the energy crisis is the chemical fertilizers have gone up in price to where they're more expensive than organic fertilizers are. Used to be organic fertilizers were probably 20% more expensive than chemical fertilizers. Today, chemical fertilizers cost as much, or in many cases more, than organic fertilizers. So it's not a cost issue, and it would be hard to use too much. Okay. The other things that make organic fertilizers better than chemical fertilizers is most chemical fertilizers have very little of what we call micronutrients in them. I mean, when you see three numbers on a fertilizer label, they have to be there by law. Those measure nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, always in that order, and they have to be posted on the fertilizer label. And those are three things which are important in larger quantities for plants and animals to grow and live and survive. But we also have a large number of things that we used to call them trace elements, but in the ever-going attempt to have bigger words that fewer people understand, we can't call them trace elements anymore. We have to call them micronutrients. And there are things out there that it takes only a tiny amount of. Copper, molybdenum, zinc, it takes a little bit more. Iron, it takes a little bit more. Chlorine, iodine, sulfur. The list goes on and on of all these things that have to be present in tiny quantities for plant life to go on. There's virtually none of that in chemical fertilizers. In organic fertilizers, you've got plenty of everything you need in there, because most organic, well, all organic fertilizers were once part of something living, and so consequently they have all the micronutrients as well as the so-called macronutrients that need to be in fertilizers. Now, I'm not going to tell you there's only one kind of organic fertilizer out there that's good. There are a bunch of them that are good. I will tell you why we like this one best. This is Medina's product. They call it Growing Green. We just call it granular organic. It's one of the most reasonably priced ones out there. I love Ladybug, but it is very high priced. I like the Maestro Texas Tea, but it is very high priced. This stuff has stayed consistently at a reasonable price. And one thing that Stuart Frankie that makes this puts in there that I think is extremely good is something that is called micronized green sand. Now, green sand is a natural iron source. Green sand is not a chemical. Green sand is basically sand that comes out of the bottom of an ocean, a lake, a river, whatever else, where over thousands and thousands of years, layer after layer after layer of different algae and things have become plated out, have stuck to the sand. Gives it kind of a green color, but it is very high in iron and has zinc and has a lot of other things in it. Now, you know, sand grains are actually pretty large in the realm of things in the universe. There are a great many very, very tiny things out there, and by comparison, a grain of sand may seem small to us, but it's really pretty big. It doesn't have just a heck of a lot of surface area. But if we could take that grain of green sand and bust it into, you know, 1,000 or 1,000,000 pieces, we would have a huge increase in the surface area, the area that these minerals were exposed to microbial activity so the plants could get to them. This process called micronizing is exactly that. Micronizing breaks things down into extremely tiny pieces, and the folks over at Medina have this thing called an air cyclone. It's an amazing thing. You can put anything into that machine, turn it on, and it comes out as the finest dust that you have ever seen in the bottom of it. He actually started using this because, you know, even though you think Medina Fertilizer Company, Medina is very involved in cutting-edge research on the most promising new anti-cancer drug that's coming out right now, something made from oleanders, and that's why Stuart originally got the air grinder, but he's used it for a lot of other things. But anyway, they put the micronized green sand in their fertilizer, which is why it greens things up as well as promoting a good, soft, you know, steady growth. I keep telling him I want to see micronized green sand for us just to use as an iron supplement on some plants, and he keeps saying, you can't afford it, you can't afford it. I don't know, I still think it's one of the best sources, and regular green sand like this is a great product. It's just not super fast acting, and if you have plants that are truly deficient in iron or zinc, that's what I'm going to tell you to put on to help green them up. But this stuff really works fast because it's got a lot of the micronized green sand in it. Yes,
How
sir.
can you tell if a plant is deficient in iron and zinc?
It is hard to tell exactly, but there is something which is called chlorosis. And chlorosis literally means a lack of chlorophyll. Chlorosis shows up in a plant in the form of a leaf where the veins are dark and green and where the surrounding tissue is lighter colored. I should have looked around and brought a leaf in to show you that. I mean, probably everybody has seen that. But there are three things that cause chlorosis. One of them is lack of iron, the other is lack of zinc, the other is lack of nitrogen. So it could be one of three different things. But generally speaking, if you're looking at plants where the veins are yellow and the rest of the leaf is light green, that is probably an iron deficiency more than anything else. So what do? You put on a good fertilizer like this that has iron, zinc, and nitrogen, so you're covered in case of any of the three deficiencies. But if you're sure that it's just an iron deficiency, green sand is probably the best thing to put out. Another very good product, I hate to talk about it because it's getting harder and harder to get. This is something that Medina makes it called micronutrients. Much more concentrated, much faster acting form of iron. It's made from a natural clay. It comes out of Mexico. It is an organic product. But it's a little bit more expensive, and like I say, we're not sure how much longer we're going to get it, but it is a very, very good product. Anyway, good question. Yes?
Some fertilizers you can't use on St. Augustine grass. Is this, you can use this on St. Augustine?
Have you ever wondered why you can't use some fertilizers on St. Augustine grass? It's because they put weed killers in it. And weed killers are one of the biggest cancer causers in the world. Weed killers have been linked, and most of the research is done on dogs. I don't know why. Somebody gets early on good joke. Somebody told me they're starting to use lawyers for this process. I hope there are not any lawyers here. But they gave 3 reasons. They said they reproduce faster, nobody gets attached to them, and there's something rats just won't do. I have many friends who are attorneys, but I love to tease them constantly. But weed killers on dogs have been